on this edition of Art Loft, a visual extravaganza.
Geometry takes on new life with Fort Lauderdale artist Francesco Lo Castro.
Miami artist Mark Diamond teaches us the fine art of creating 3D holograms.
Get immersed in a world of light and color as we tour artist Haiiileen's latest installation.
And the Tree of Life speaks as NightGarden comes to life at Fairchild. It's all ahead on this edition of Art Loft.
Art Loft is brought to you by
Where there is freedom, there is expression. The Florida Keys and Key West.
the Miami-Dade County Tourist Development Council, the Miami-Dade County Department of Cultural Affairs, and the Cultural Affairs Council, the Miami-Dade County Mayor, and the Board of County Commissioners, and by the Friends of South Florida PBS.
Hi, I'm Jamani Anamdi.
And I'm Lolo Reskin. And from the streets of Wynwood,
This right here, this is Art Loft.
if you love stunning visuals, Wynwood is the place to be. As a matter of fact, it's one of the most photographed and Instagrammed spots in the world.
Now, speaking of stunning visuals, this episode is packed with them. We've got everything from geometric paintings to 3D video and immersive environments.
Up first, we take a walk through an enchanted land as we stroll through the NightGarden at Fairchild Tropical Botanic Gardens in Coral Gables. Let's take a look.
If nature had a voice, this would be it.
When we wanted to do the Night Garden, we went all around the U.S. And when we came to Miami, we came to Fairchild Garden, and it was really the most beautiful garden we have seen. Add to that the fact that Miami has not had a lit-up garden as of yet.
Fairchild is an 80-year-old institution. So many people know Fairchild by visiting it during the daytime, or they've seen it at night on a few other occasions. But this experience is a completely different and a completely unique experience. What the creative geniuses at Kilburn Live have done is give life to nature, to really create a dialogue between the visitor and nature. The uniqueness of this exhibition, the Night Garden for Fairchild, is that it's incredibly imbued into our programming.
We're not just about lighting up a garden, we're about telling a story. We're telling the story of the garden and their mission.
We have the Million Orchid Project, which is we're reintroducing 1 million orchids into South Florida. You walk through 23 acres of the garden and you go through various ecosystems. So right now we're in the rainforest. And this behind me is the web of life. And then you go through other areas of the garden and you see various other discussions taking place. And one of the areas is Growing Beyond Earth, where Fairchild is participating with NASA on growing space salads on the space station. And so that's personified in a storytelling technique using plants, edible plants.
Obviously, as a multimedia experience, it's incredibly challenging to get this together in a short space of time, but we have some of the best people in the world working on this. Certain artists we knew of already from their works. Lee Dyer, for example, is a UK metal sculptor who's gained international acclaim for some of his works in the southeast of England. He's produced these amazing dandelion sculptures here, we're all very proud of. But also the person who programmed the talking tree, which is one of our amazing touch points that happens, an interactive tree. I don't think anyone's experienced that before.
You're a tree!
I am a tree. You're a human.
The technology of the tree is absolute cutting edge. It is projected, and there is an actual actor a few feet away who can hear and see everything. So it is, you know, and the face itself is projected on the tree. So people do think that the tree is talking.
My favorite color is green. The color of leaves and grass and ferns.
So there are multiple mediums of art here. You have sculptured art, you have light art, you have sound art, you have holographic art, you have projected art. There's lots of lit up gardens per se, and so when we wanted to do one, we wanted not just to light it up, but we wanted it to be very interactive. When we first came up with the idea, we said, can we come up with a VR experience without the VR experience itself? And that's kind of what we went for. It took them I'd say about 5 months just on pure drawings itself, and then about 3 months actually building it.
While you know you're looking at lights and projections, you don't feel like you're looking at lights and projections. You feel like you're in it. It's definitely an interactive visual and emotional experience. You feel immersed, completely imbued into this experience. It takes the real and it takes the magic and it makes it all real.
While the Night Garden was a limited engagement at Fairchild, you can check out the amazing gardens just about any day.
We've got the links on our social media at Art Loft SFL. From the Night Garden to another immersive environment, playful, colorful, and downright trippy. Let me introduce you to Miami-based artist Haiileen, who has an installation at the Young at Art Museum in Davie, and you've got to see it to fully experience it. We're here at the Young at Art Museum in Davie to talk about LightScapes, and we're sitting here with the artist herself, Haiileen. I'm sure, it took a lot to fill such a huge space, but that's sort of your forte. So tell us a little bit about your grand idea for LightScapes.
I'm tiny but mighty, so I do like the large-scale enveloped realities. I do like to build to make you feel like you're in a destination. Everything that you see here on this space, I fabricated myself. Being that I feel like it's such a purist approach to how we perceive art and how that art is reflected.
We're gonna take a walk around and
Cool.
You'll be able to tell me more about the different elements of this very immersive world. We're sitting underneath the HaiiiMobile.
I was able to do a new process for this exact exhibition. I was able to learn how to chrome, which is about a 6-step chemical process in order to get materials to have a mirrored finish. And I was able to add some of them with a mirrored finish and some with colors, so that way the colors can really, and the light can really transcend even more so. It's almost like a galactic chandelier piece.
I think my dining room's a little small for this one, but
It's a maze. Each of these pieces are all full-length acrylic 4x8 sheets, and all of these sheets, I had them hydro dipped. And each and every single one, it almost creates this beautiful ripple effect of color. And focusing on fluorescent paints, but really adds another layer of texture into the pieces themselves. So I was really happy to have that extra narrative into the space, where it really allows for this more hypnotic, surreal environment. Mirrors add another world into this space in itself. So it's really beautiful where kids they glimpse themselves inside the pieces and they catch themselves with different colored mirrors. Of course, we look up and it's just like another world up there. We added over 80 lights for the rooftop. So not only do you get a sense of a different world while you're down here in this level, but also when you look up, it's also another spectrum as well. And of course, using a lot of cycling material. I have a nonprofit called High Labs, where it really is using upcycling material and providing the material for other artists to use, so that way they're able to save money on their projects and prototyping and just organic process. So I'm really into upcycling and using that as a part of my process in my artwork.
I have heard over the years from artists that one of the biggest barricades they face is the high cost of art supplies sometimes, especially if they're a large-scale artist. So this one's called Aqua.
Aqua is this is actually 30 panels, but the original Aqua installation is 60 panels. And so this is actually half of the size of the original piece. And each of these different panels are a collage of like my past life and who I was in fashion. These are actually the first colors that we see that actually when the R and the G and the B collide, create a secondary base where it then transcend into white light. So it's a reverse engineering on how we're supposed to see light and the representation of light. And since I primarily focus on LEDs, and LEDs are consisted of an RGB wiring system as well, so it's really beautiful to have that narrative. Having that educational aspect behind my exposition is really something that it's exciting for all ages. So, and it's great to be able to see how beautiful, exactly. I mean, it's like endless fun, and you can pretty much live in here all day long using all of these different colors. But also too, I had where we were able to interact, so was showing association by each of the different colors and having each one turned off, where they understand how colors, the light interacts with one another. So it gives a different perspective every single time. So understanding that red, green, and blue, white will transcend into these colors in itself.
Tell us just a little bit about what you have coming up in the future.
Most of my work is so large scale that I'm finally producing small scale work. So it's great to start on that challenge and working on more of a micro level, so that way people like you can take home these pieces and you can take a little part of this hallucination back home with you.
And be sure to check out our 360 video of LightScapes on our South Florida PBS Facebook page. Francesco Lo Castro is an Italian visual artist living and working in South Florida. Let's check out his Oakland Park studio and get a look at his unique painting technique that combines both pigments and plastics.
A lot of people like to see the work as psychedelic or otherworldly or sci-fi. I mean, the beauty of that abstraction that I work in is that it's open to a lot of different types of interpretation. None of them are wrong. I'm very comfortable in all of it. But to me, it's really just me trying to explain the world as I see it. Sketches are just ideas, just to put some things out there, but rarely does a piece ever end up coming out the way I drew it. You know, that's not really the point. The point is, when I sketch, it's really just kind of an exercise of like thinking about shapes and lines and where they could go and not. I have fun with that kind of mystery where it's like, I try not to plan it too much, even though the work seems very highly planned, but it's much closer to me playing jazz. Just, I only know my next step, and then these structures and compositions just kind of emerge out of it. So I have a lot of fun. I am the viewer, as I make the work. If I would plan some of these pieces up front, I'd be too intimidated to even begin. I usually approach the piece, I start with a wooden surface. So this is just like a wood panel, generally like a box to give it like a thicker edge. And then you want to imagine it like a sandwich. I just basically apply color, and then epoxy resin goes on like a liquid and then hardens. And then I do that about 4, 5, 6, sometimes up to 8 times. And so I have these colors and shapes that are just sandwiched in between these very transparent resin layers. And that's how I build the dimension of it, and it becomes this like 3-dimensional looking paintings. And you don't need any glasses to see it, because the transparent layers help the shapes cast shadows. And so it gives you the further away feel of the first layers being kind of really far in the back. And so in the span of like a 1/4 inch, I can make it appear like there's 20 feet distance in like a piece that you want to imagine that way. I know what it means to me. And what it means to me is, the visualization of a certain common ground, a language that seems to be working for everyone, color and shape, and the hidden structures that really surround us on a day-to-day basis. I'm a classically trained painter, so the work that I used to do was very much representational. And I sort of hit the ceiling with that early on, where I just needed something else to explain certain issues that I had on my mind. And so I kind of stumbled upon the abstraction. Slowly, these paintings are starting to become sculptures. Shapes are starting to emerge where they're now, the layers are much more extended and protrude out, and they go all the way to just like, even the shapes themselves don't become these traditional squares or rectangles anymore. They become more varied. Again, just because I'm trying to imagine the work take on all kinds of dimensions. And these are still three-dimensional semi-sculptural works that are hanging on a wall, but they're also becoming freestanding sculptures like pieces over there. And it's just, again, all just models for much larger things that I hope to bring to life in the future. The medium is really secondary as far as I'm concerned. A lot of people categorize me as a resin artist because I do use a lot of epoxy resin in my work, but I started using resin only because it had this quality of becoming invisible. And so it's not something I'm trying to emphasize, I'm trying to take away, because I want the work to be as light and tangible and just be able to exist in many different forms as possible. It visually exists somewhere between the past and the future, and hopefully become something very of the moment and contemporary. Just had a show in Seoul, South Korea. And so again, that's the beauty of this abstract work, is that it really appeals to a lot of people, and you can communicate with people of different cultures and languages quite easily, and they either get it or they don't. But when they get it, it's like you're almost speaking the same language. And so it's been really rewarding in that sense.
You can check out Lo Castro's future-forward aesthetic at francescolocastro.com.
I recently checked out a super cool artist working right here in Miami for the last several decades. His name is Mark Diamond, and he specializes in fine art, holograms, and 3D images. His Miami studio is open to the public, so you should make an appointment. Check out these images. They're gonna trip you out. Take a look. Well, hello, I'm here with Mark Diamond. My mind is blown, so I'm gonna try to act normal and talk to you, but I really want to get into this art that you have going on here. So how long have you been doing this?
Three-dimensional work I've been doing over 40 years.
40 years.
Laser holography and three-dimensional photography. So I was already making photographs when I saw my first hologram, but I didn't know how it worked. I told my parents, I need a laser. Convinced them I wasn't going to burn a hole through the house or kill anybody. That was 1975.
Wow. So the whole point is to really take the 2D and to turn it into 3D.
As long as life is multidimensional, why not capture it that way?
It gives you a different kind of relationship with the piece.
Oh my God, yeah. It's somewhere between sculpture and photography.
So you're an artist. However, you are deep into technology.
Very much so.
So what's that bridge? How do you connect those worlds?
Well, this has been an effort and part of my practice for over 40 years. When I first went to study holography, it became obvious that it was something highly technical. I'm basically a scientist and an artist, and it was important to master the technical aspects of the medium before I could actually apply an aesthetic sensibility. As new technologies emerge, it expands the palette for potential aesthetic expression and artistic expression. And I'm very, very interested in that. I track at least a dozen technologies weekly for decades. And things are changing really, really fast in a really cool way.
So technologies are changing. So what are some of the interesting ways that you've seen?
As of 3 months ago, I now accept any two-dimensional image, and I can three-dimensionalize it. I can turn them into 3D, even though nobody captured them in 3D in the first place.
Wow.
It's a biggie. Up until recently, we haven't been able to work with two-dimensional photographs because there wasn't enough information. but there are some very robust and intuitive computer programs now, algorithms that allow us to produce a depth map from the two-dimensional image and then render a three-dimensional image from the original two-dimensional image.
Well, let's check out some stuff, man.
Okay.
This one here, this piece we were talking about here, Dizzy Gillespie.
That is 90 images from left to right.
90 images.
So as you move, you're actually animating it. So it's like a motion picture where you're the moving part.
That's really cool.
So originally it was filmed with motion picture film, and then we take the movie film in the laser lab and make a hologram of each movie frame. So there are holograms representing movie frames from left to right.
So this is 2 drawings here?
72 images in there.
Wow.
36 of one drawing and 36 of the other drawing.
Let me see.
Yeah,
I'm trying to figure out how to get in there. I want to get behind that box.
I get it.
Let me see.
I totally get it. I totally get it.
Oh, I think I almost did.
Yeah, this is the most common reaction. People can tell it's 3D, but once your hand is in the space, your brain kicks forward with a greater realization of just how 3D it is.
Yeah, it's like literally like floating.
Now, in the case of these kinetic caricatures, I make 6 drawings and I combine them all together.
So I know you shoot a lot of portraits. I know my co-host Lolo had an opportunity to sit down with you and get captured. So first, show me what cameras do you usually use to do this whole 3D process?
Okay, I capture 2 main ways. One way is I utilize a system that integrates 24 images that are captured in 1.5 seconds using 6 cameras. So the entire thing moves from left to right, and it's going click, 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 like that. So I get 24 pictures in about 1.5 seconds.
So with Lolo, did you do it that way too?
For that process, and I'll show you right now, I learned how to do it by hand.
I'll sit right here. Does this work?
Great.
Okay.
Great. This would be one way of capturing, where I say, okay, you ready? And
do I move? Or
no, don't move. Okay, and I have enough images there to produce a beautiful
right
portrait.
there.
Yeah. I've captured you from 18 different perspectives, and I combine them all into one, and that's what you end up seeing that's framed on the wall.
All right, well, I know you're working on Lolo's. I'll give you a minute. She'll be here soon.
Here's the original data set I captured when she came. As you can see, the images are moving from left to right, and they're slightly different perspectives. When I combine them all and align them all, they look like this. When I'm done, I produce an interlace file that looks like this. This is the thing that I print, and when you zoom into it, you'll see it's made up of tens of thousands of pieces.
I thought you might want to see that day you stopped in when you were doing the radio show, and your hair was glowing in the sun, and I took those pictures.
So let's take a look. There you are. The interlace print. I'm going to go ahead and align this. It should start looking kind of 3D, and I'll show you how that works. I'm going to peel this back. A little pressure. All right, now let's go over to the laminator. Here we go. So once that's done, you're in.
Whoa. Amazing. Is that considered a lenticular?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's 18 pictures sort of.
All combined. Thank you for posing. Yeah. One of the main fun features of getting to do what I do is to see people's reactions. I've seen others looking at the work and then going out in the world and seeing things more three-dimensionally. I know that sounds like a fantastic claim, but if I hadn't seen it so darn many times, I wouldn't say it.
That was great, right? Now, you can learn more about fine art holograms and the artists at diamondimages3d.com. Well, thanks for joining us on this very special episode of Art Loft. Now, Lolo, what was your favorite part of the episode?
I got Made 3D by Mark Diamond.
That's pretty nice. He's a legend.
What was your favorite part?
Well, Haiileen over at Young at Arts, I cannot wait to take my daughter to see that installation. But you guys, what was your favorite part?
Connect with us anytime online at Art Loft SFL, and we'd love to hear from you. For Art Loft, I'm Lolo Reskin.
And I'm Jamani Anamdi. We'll see you next time. Now remember, art imitates life, so do what? Live a beautiful life. Peace.
What does it mean to have your first museum exhibit down here, and especially in a place that, you know, again, welcomes people of all ages?
Yeah, I mean, being a Miami girl and being that, you know, the colorscapes of Miami General have been a huge inspiration of who I am, and being at home in my home base to really have that representation. It's great that I'm able to have my first museum show at, you know, South Florida, and that for me, South Florida holds a very dear place to my heart, and it's great to be able to not only, I'm used to working with more adult-themed platforms, but now I can only imagine what these children were to come in and what that ripple effect will cause them to inspire. You know, seeing this reality is already, I mean, even for adults, it's becoming very transcendent, but even for children, I know that this is going to create a trigger inside their beautiful little minds, that it's going to inspire them to always think larger.
Art Loft is brought to you by
Where there is freedom, there is expression. The Florida Keys and Key West.
the Miami-Dade County Tourist Development Council, the Miami-Dade County Department of Cultural Affairs, and the Cultural Affairs Council, the Miami-Dade County Mayor, and the Board of County Commissioners. And by the Friends of South Florida PBS.